Go nickel, nickel, nickel. 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 It's nickel. It's speed nickel. Okay, nickel, 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 nickel.
The Chargers are going to be running a lot of nickel formation apparently, which means that they are going to be having a lot of DBs on the field. We talked about the cornerback room and the competition at that spot earlier this week, but now I want to talk to you guys about the safeties because there are even more question marks here and there are a lot of different outcomes that we could see. Let me give you the full breakdown on the Chargers safety room. Now let's start off with the man himself, Derwin James, because he is clearly the leader of this defense and really like the entire team in general. He might be the one wearing the green dot and he is already learning the Jesse Minter scheme very well. I mean, just listen to this.
Yeah, coach. I already know. And I know the difference between if that 3 go now, the double slant versus the when I got a punch.
Yeah.
Derwin James had a down year last year, and hopefully we will see him bounce back because when he plays to his full potential, he is probably the best safety in the NFL. I'd be willing to put a significant amount of blame on the way that he played last season on Brandon Staley because Brandon Staley's defense was so complicated. It seems like there were several times that guys were playing out of position. No one was really getting any help. And there were several times that I can recall just off the top of my head that Derwin James was responsible for a blown coverage, which, you know, typically that's going to be the result of poor coaching when your star player blows a coverage. I mean, if he doesn't know what he's doing, then who does? But we're not talking about Brandon Staley because that man is gone, okay? Happy times now. We got Jim Harbaugh. Derwin James, he is tenacious and fast, and he fits exactly what Jesse Minter wants to do on defense, which has caused a lot of confusion for the offense with a bunch of different looks and put the offensive line in conflict with tons of blitzes coming from everywhere. Derwin James is literally the perfect like all-in-one tool for Jesse Minter to use, but it is worth noting that Derwin James, he has had injuries in his career. He is coming off a down year, even though I do blame Brandon Staley for a lot of that. And he's also going to be 28 years old. Now, the Chargers, they do have an out on his contract after this season in case something like catastrophic happens, but I really don't envision them exercising that out on his contract. Even if Derwin James does get injured this year, I just think he's too important in their culture and in their defense. And I think it would send the wrong message to the players. I would expect Derwin James to have a resurgence with Jesse Minter as the defensive coordinator because he's going to be put in a better position to succeed, and so will Alohi Gilman. Because Alohi Gilman, he signed a 2-year contract to return to the Chargers this season, and he is likely to start alongside Derwin James at safety. Now, Alohi Gilman, he came up big in a lot of crucial situations, not only this past season, but the year prior to that. And he has steadily been growing as a player and as a leader on this team. He doesn't really have like that flashiness and the ceiling that Derwin James has, but he is a solid and reliable starter, which honestly, that is a hard thing to come by in the NFL. And on top of that, he is on a cheap contract and he also has an out after this season. And I think that is something to keep an eye on. He's going to be getting a big pay bump after this season with almost double the cap hit. So I think he's much more likely to be cut after this season, even if he does play well, because like, listen, man, he could just be a cap casualty. We'll talk a little bit more about why later on, but listen, man, I am a fan of Alohi Gilman. I think he's really a solid safety. He played very well. Like I said, he came up in some big time moments for the past 2 years, but he's not the most athletic and rangy safety, which is what I think the Chargers are looking for when they want to pair a guy with Derwin James. Now we start talking about those athletic and rangy safeties. We're talking about JT Woods. He has all of the physical tools that you want with the size and the athleticism. Now his problem is that he has not been able to stay healthy in the NFL, but also when he is on the field, he struggles to make tackles at a very high rate. He has a 36.4 missed tackle rate, man, in the NFL, which I understand it's not a great sample size because he hasn't played much in the NFL, but he also had 41 missed tackles in college when he was at Baylor. So it's been a problem for him since he was a prospect. He's entering his 3rd season in the NFL with only 91 total snaps played, but he did have some nice flashes in the preseason last year while he was healthy. So I wouldn't totally rule him out. But as of right now, it seems like he is the most likely to be cut because he was the previous regime's guy. He can't stay healthy and he can't really tackle, doesn't take good angles to the football. He's probably going to be in competition with the undrafted free agents that we just signed, specifically, I think, Akeem Dent, because he fits the exact mold of what JT Woods was drafted to be. JT Woods, he is a better athlete, but if you look at the RES scores right here, you can see that Akeem Dent, he has a better 3-cone drill, which is that short area quickness, and also a better 20-yard and 10-yard split, which is that build-up speed. Those two things are very important as a safety, that build-up speed and the short area quickness, and I think that's even more important than that 40-yard dash. As you can see, JT Woods actually was a faster 40-yard dash than Akeem Dent had, but your safeties, they're not really going to be running 40 yards at a time. They're going to be running those quick 10-yard, 20-yard splits because they're already way back in the defense. What you want in a safety is somebody that can diagnose what is happening and then quickly react to it. Akeem Dent, he tested better as an athlete in those areas, and it reflects on tape as well. He's also a better tackler because Akeem Dent had 144 tackles with 52 run stops, while JT Woods at Baylor, he had 130 tackles with 34 run stops. And Akeem Dent, he did play one more season than JT Woods did, but he also had one less missed tackle than JT Woods did. So he was more productive as well as being more efficient when tackling. There's an emphasis on establishing the run on this team, but also stopping the run. And I don't think they want to have the last man to beat on their defense at safety be a poor tackler and take bad angles to the football like JT Woods has been prone to do. And if you are prone to play fantasy sports, if you click on my link in the description and use my code McLean, that is MACLANE, you will get a special pick'em and up to $250 in bonus cash on your first time deposit. Underdog is my favorite fantasy sports app. This helps me out so much. I'm very appreciative if you guys use my code. Let me tell you guys about my favorite underdog at safety right now because it's actually AJ Finley. Now, AJ Finley, he was an undrafted free agent last year out of Ole Miss, and he made the team primarily due to his special teams ability. And it was kind of a surprise to a lot of people that he did make the team. He's a very versatile defender. He was used in the box, at free safety, in the slot, and even out wide at cornerback over his 4 years in college. Now, he's not a real rangy safety like the guys we just talked about, but he is really good in run defense and is best with the action happening in front of him so that he can work his way down the field towards the ball carrier. He is 6'3", but he doesn't have like that blazing athleticism like Akeem Dent, like JT Woods does, but he is a much better tackler. He takes way better angles to the ball carrier. I think this is a guy that is sneakily building momentum. He made the team last year as an undrafted free agent. He had a forced fumble last year against the Bills on a punt. He had an interception in practice on the very first day of OTAs. You can see right here, there's the evidence. And then Jesse Minter, when he was mic'd up just a couple days ago, he was taking notice of him. Just listen to this clip.
Nice job talking. Nice job talking. Good. AJ, great job talking.
And then also when the Chargers showed a clip of the safeties working the sled, I looked in the background there and I thought to myself, dang, that guy looks feisty. And it was AJ Finley. So he literally stood out to me in just a simple sled drill. At Ole Miss, AJ Finley would constantly come up in big time moments. And now that he's in the NFL, he is proving that he belongs. I am excited for AJ Finley, and the last guy to talk about is Jalyn Phillips, the undrafted free agent from Clemson. Jalyn is a guy that, listen, I'm not like a huge fan of because I think compared to the other safeties on the Chargers roster, he needs the most refinement. Doesn't really take good angles to the ball carrier like AJ Finley or like even Alohi Gilman does, and he doesn't have a good feel for zone coverage like Akeem Dent or JT Woods do. I just think that the other safeties on this team are more ready now type of guys. And with AJ Finley specifically set to emerge, I think that Jalyn Phillips could make it in the NFL and he could make it on this team on the practice squad and then work his way up over time because he does have traits to succeed in the NFL. I just think for him to make this final 53-man roster, it's going to be tough in his first year. So with all that being said, there are two things that I'm going to be keeping an eye on in training camp. the battle between JT Woods and Akeem Dent, and the possible emergence of AJ Finley as a legitimate rotational safety on this roster. If AJ Finley starts to play well, then we can start talking about that out in Alohi Gilman's contract a little more seriously, because AJ Finley, he can provide you with what Alohi Gilman does, but on a more cost-controlled contract with better size, and like he's 5 years younger. And if you didn't see my video yesterday, there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about with this running back room too.